Hello and welcome to Future Review. Today I'll be sharing with you the first part in the Challenges of Galactic Empire series, where I go over various challenges and obstacles people will face if they seek to become a galactic empire. Before I go any further, let me explain what I mean by galactic empire. We could send people into space right now to colonize other worlds, but the problem, for reasons that I'll explain soon, is that these worlds that they colonize would become completely independent and disjoint. They would develop completely independently from Earth, and so it wouldn't qualify for what I'm talking about as a galactic empire. What I mean by galactic empire is one united, more or less, polity throughout the galaxy, one interstellar civilization spanning most of the galaxy, something you could paint most, if not all, of the galactic map one color with. And now that I've explained what I mean by galactic empire, one interstellar civilization that's actually fairly unified, let me get into the first problem of galactic empire. The first problem that we'll encounter and the most important one to solve, that being what I'm going to call the faster than light problem. You see, if we don't master faster than light travel, both of matter and communication, then galactic empire is impossible, frankly, because of the vast distances involved. You have to remember that space is far, far, far larger than anything on Earth. We measure distances in space by light years. The amount of distance that light, the currently fastest thing known in the universe, travels in an entire year. A light year is approximately 6 trillion miles, 10 trillion kilometers. The closest star system to our own is the Alpha Centauri star system, which is about 4.2 light years away. That means that traveling at the speed of light, at the fastest known speed currently, it would still take 4.2 years to get there. And that's one way. Just for comparison, the Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy, is approximately 90,000 light years in diameter. And so a galactic empire in the Milky Way galaxy would be 90,000 light years in diameter as well, meaning that the ends of the empire would be tens of thousands of years away from each other at light speed. This is a problem because you can imagine that you can't have a unified polity when the edges are 90,000 years away from each other, even at the fastest known speed in the universe. You can imagine you can imagine that during the 90,000 years it would take for anyone to reach the other end of the empire, the worlds on the other side would develop completely independently because there'd be no way for the capital administration to actually keep an eye on them. In 90,000 years, the languages would diverge, the cultures would develop completely differently. Even biology would be different because 90,000 years is long enough for evolution to take place. You would have subspecies of humans rather than one unified species by that point. And repeat that a few times, and you'd have completely different species on each different planet in the galaxy. It wouldn't even be one human species anymore. And so you can see that without faster than light travel, you can't have a unified polity, and you might not even have one species at some point. And to some extent, this applies with faster than light communication as well, because that is an essential part of administering an empire, communication, for the central administration to actually keep an eye on everything and implement its directives. And if there's no faster than light communication, you could administer an empire without it, but it would require physically sending a messenger to every single planet that every time a directive is implemented, which is possible. It would just result in a much more feudal empire where there would have to be a lot more decentralization because each planet would have to manage itself a lot more because the capital simply cannot do that very often if they have only faster than light travel. Daily issues would have to be taken care of by the local planets themselves, and only the grand scheme of things would be handled by the capital. And so, faster than light communication would also be essential to creating any kind of polity in the galaxy that resembles a modern state rather than like a feudal one, a highly decentralized one. So, faster than light travel, sending people, ships, and supplies throughout space is absolutely essential to the galactic empire because, first of all, you have to reach the galaxy in order to actually build a galactic empire, and second of all, in order to keep it unified instead of just a bunch of disjoint independent worlds. While faster than light communication is highly recommended, but not technically essential. It would be a real pain to administer an empire without it, but it could be done the same way that feudal realms could administer themselves, albeit again in a highly decentralized manner where the king doesn't actually have a great deal of power over anything but his own personal domains. So that's what a galactic empire without faster than light communication would look like. Feudalism in space, basically. So that's not what people usually think of, but it could be done, theoretically. And it would loosely fit my definition of galactic empire if it was all officially under one king. And with that, I'm going to now talk about some of the potential means of faster than light travel and faster than light communication as well. And I'll start with faster than light travel. Perhaps the most realistic way that we might be able to achieve faster than light travel, and the one that most science fiction universe faster than light travel is based on, is the Alcubierre drive, which in science fiction is usually called the warp drive, but in real life it's called the Alcubierre drive. That's what it's actually based on. To put it loosely, the Alcubierre drive is basically creating a field of negative mass around the spacecraft, thus contracting space-time in such a way as to allow faster than light travel. And to explain a little further why that works, it's because of Einstein's theory of special relativity. Because Einstein's theory of special relativity states that only something with zero mass can travel at the speed of light, something like, say, a photon, the actual light particle, and some other particles as well, whereas something of any mass, matter with any mass at all, has to travel less than the speed of light. And this is the main problem, which is that why we haven't found any actual means to travel faster than light. Hypothetical particles called tachyons have been proposed that can travel faster than light, but these are purely theoretical for now, so there isn't much we can do with that until we actually find tachyons, and get better yet, find a way to actually harness their potential for faster than light travel. But that's the idea underpinning the Alcubierre drive, is that only something of zero mass can even travel at the speed of light, which means, by Einstein's special theory of relativity, something of negative mass could actually travel faster than light without violating any more laws of physics. That is, aside from the laws of physics that are violated by the idea of negative mass itself, that is itself highly theoretical, a form of incredibly exotic matter that we have no idea about if that's even possible or if it actually exists. But that's the point of the Alcubierre drive, is that if you could somehow create a field of negative mass around, say, a starship, you would actually be able to travel faster than light by Einstein's special theory of relativity, and that would work. Of course, we have to actually find that negative mass and figure out a way to do it, but that's the idea of the Alcubierre drive, and that's generally how warp drives work in science fiction. Like in Star Trek, for instance, the ship sort of contracts space-time around it in like a bubble type of thing, which allows it to traverse the universe faster than light. Another form of faster than light travel that is often seen in science fiction is the wormhole. And to explain what a wormhole is, imagine you have like a piece of paper, and you punch two holes in it, and you basically put a tunnel between those two holes. You fold the paper and you put a tunnel between them, thus allowing you to get between those holes faster than what you otherwise would have been able to do just by going the distance on the paper itself. A wormhole is essentially this idea, but every dimension of what I just described is raised by one. So instead of a hole in a two-dimensional piece of paper, it's like a sphere portal thing in three-dimensional space that and connected to another one of those. And it allows you to basically travel through four-dimensional space-time much faster than you otherwise would be able to. And so by going through a wormhole, you are able to travel from point A to B in the universe in space-time faster than light would be able to normally. The good thing about wormholes is that they don't actually violate any laws of physics at all. The bad news about wormholes is that they are completely theoretical, just like the Alcubierre drive. We have yet to find any of them, and we have no idea how to create them if they exist at all. And so that would be the problem with wormholes. regarding faster than light travel for the purposes of a galactic empire, because you see, it's not just about finding wormholes, it's about creating them in a lot of ways, because wormholes may not be where we want them to be. Ideally, we could have wormholes connecting all the various worlds of the Empire, and thus you could get to each world faster than you would be able to otherwise, but that's the problem. Unlike the L-Cube airdrive, where we basically just have to figure out how to create negative mass, and you can just send ships off right away, wormholes, you would have to actually create them where you want them and be able to maintain them and everything. But if you were able to do that, that would work. That would allow you to create a galactic empire, and that would work. Perhaps the and perhaps and basically all this applies to faster than light communication as well, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. Like with faster than light travel, tachyons have been proposed as a way for faster than light communication to take place. Although again, tachyons are purely theoretical, so who knows what that we can do with that. And so that's pretty much all I can offer you on that front as well. And again, like with FTL travel, wormholes have actually been proposed as another way to create faster than light communication. And the good thing about that is that a wormhole would have to be smaller for faster than light communication, because you only need to send information through it rather than matter in bulk quantities like a starship or in people and supplies and all that. So the wormhole would only need to be large enough to send information, like say a radio wave, because in space our cell phone isn't going to be enough, because cell phones use radio waves, which are a form of electromagnetic radiation like visible light, and so they move at the speed of light, which is too slow for the galaxy. So but if you had a wormhole, you could actually send radio waves like we do right now with our modern communications to another world through the tunnel in space-time, and it would get there much faster than it would otherwise. However, the problem with this is that you'd have to be even more precise with your wormhole manufacturing. You'd have to manufacture wormholes in every home and connect them at every home and somehow be able to send it to the correct one. Everything you'd have to have some kind of wormhole cellular network, which may be possible, but that's even more theoretical than just sending a ship through. So that's about all for wormhole communication for faster than light communication. Perhaps the most interesting way of faster than light communication, though, is with quantum entanglement, if it's possible. To explain quantum entangling very simply, quantum entangling is this idea that sets of particles that should not have any relation to each other, can still have some kind of relation to each other, like moving in tandem when they should not be able. They have no actual interaction with each other, at least as far as we can see. Like particles on the other side of the world moving in tandem for some reason. We don't understand this fully, but if we did, and were able to harness this would actually potentially allow faster than light communication very reliably, because you could have, say, a machine that creates a quantum entangled particle with another particle on another world, and you could basically send like a kind of Morse code in space, a kind of telegraph system in space, where you send various codes in like you move the particle in a certain way, and that registers with the other particle on another world, and the machine is able to interpret it and decipher the message that's being sent. And that's potentially a way to solve the faster than light communication problem, is essentially this telegraph system by quantum entangling. And I think that's the most interesting way of faster than light communication in space. I don't know of any science fiction that actually has this. You hear all about the warp drives and the wormholes, but you never hear about this one. So I think it's interesting, and that might be the best way to do it, assuming we can actually understand quantum entangling. Quantum mechanics in general is a not well understood field, and you can imagine that this application of it is not high on the priority list for research, because it's not particularly essential for anything we use right now. But in any case, that's about all I have for faster than light travel and faster than light communication. In any case, we have to solve this problem because, at minimum, faster than light travel is a hard barrier on Galactic Empire if we don't have it. If we can't reach the galaxy, we can't have a Galactic Empire. It's quite simple. And without faster than light communication, administering this empire is going to be a serious pain. It's going to be very difficult, and it would lead to only the loosest definition of Galactic Empire that I have described. And with that, then, pretty much concludes the video. If you like what you heard, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And until the next video, goodbye for now.